Zimbabwe is a country whose longer past and shifting post-independence politics have both included violent histories as well as often violent contestations over history itself. In this special episode of the book series, we learn the many ways in which pasts are variously experienced, remembered, claimed, denied, or contested by different positioned actors, and how this in turn shapes the politics of the present. Viewers and listeners, thank you so much for joining me today. Good morning to you. I'm happy today that I've been joined by the co-editors and the co-authors of the book that we are going to discuss today, that is entitled The Politics of the Past in Zimbabwe. This book was published by Brill, and it was published under a series that is called Africa-Europe Group for Interdisciplinary Studies. I had to mention this. I think this is very important for us. It's important information for the people in the publishing industry. But I'm happy today that I have the co-authors, I have the co-editors, and we're going to talk a bit more about this book. So, welcome. Welcome to the book series.
Thank you very much.
That is awesome. I want to give you, a time to individually introduce yourself to us, to our audience. I just have to give a special mention to Professor Amanda Hammar. I know that I'm already talking about her. She's supposed to introduce herself, but I'm already talking about her. She's one of the first people that we ever interviewed on this series. So she's back again. She's back for having me back with another publication. Thanks to you. Thank you so much for the good work that you are doing. But now that I've talked about you, I think I'll just give you the opportunity to get in.
Okay, Anotita, thank you so much, and really congratulations on this long-running series, which is really quite wonderful.
Thank you.
And thanks on behalf of all of us, but I'll just say something about myself. So my name is Amanda Hammar, and I am a Zimbabwean, but based in Scandinavia for many decades. I'm a professor of African Studies at the University of Copenhagen. But before I was an academic, I worked for quite a long time, maybe 14, 15 years in development in Zimbabwe in various sectors. So I came into academia from that kind of experience. My earlier academic work, that was my doctoral work at the end of the 90s into the early 2000s, was about agrarian change in the margins of Northwest Zimbabwe. So land issues, displacement, and so on. Overlapping with that into the early 2000s, I worked on the Zimbabwe crisis in its initial phases, its political economic crisis. I did a book together with Brian Raftopoulos and Steve Jensen and many contributors about that crisis in its early years. I then undertook some work on white Zimbabwean farmers who were evicted and moved to Mozambique. So still in the agrarian, agricultural sort of sector, but also sort of belonging, displacement, and so on. Eventually, I came back into Zimbabwe itself and worked on urban politics, displacement, and resettlement, urban citizenship, and the state. Always the state is present. For a little time, the last 5-6 years, I shifted away to some work outside of Zimbabwe, ran a project on the changing national ID systems in Ghana and Uganda with a big collection of people. But very happily during that time, and thanks to invitation from Astrid, I could work together with her and Minna and others on this wonderful book, The Politics of the Past. So I could keep in Zimbabwe, so to speak. And now that the big project on IDs is kind of concluded, I've moved back to work on Zimbabwe, on houses, and on the relationship between property and personhood, especially around urban Bulawayo. And so that's sort of academically. I'm not a historian, but as an interdisciplinary African studies person, history, the past, always is present in that work.
Mm-hmm.
And just lastly, you'd asked us to tell something about our teaching. So I teach in critical African studies overall, some specific courses on politics, development and change in Africa, on urban politics, on displacement economies and states and citizenship, and also on critical policy and planning studies. So that's where I am positioned academically in these years. So thank you.
That's amazing. I should say that's really nice. We talked, I think, a couple of years ago, during or after the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm not sure. You were still just doing the amazing work of publishing, and we are still, you are still doing the same. So, thumbs up to you.
Thank you.
Let me bring in Professor Minna, and I should start by saying congratulations to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Anutira, for including our book for this series, exciting series. Okay, so a few words about me. So my name is Minna Johanna Niemi, and I'm a professor of English literature at the Arctic University of Norway. And I'd like to begin by telling you a couple of words about my areas of expertise and the work I've done before this book. So basically, I've been working on three major fields within post-colonial Anglophone African literary studies. So I represent literary studies here. The first of the fields focuses on ethics, trauma, and complicity studies. And my monograph represents this field. It's titled Complicity and Responsibility in Contemporary African Writing. It was published in 2021. And this book investigates the many ways in which contemporary African fiction has reflected on themes of responsibility and complicity during the post-colonial period. It also investigates the similarities and differences between fictional approaches to individual complicity in politically unstable situations. Secondly, I have worked on research focusing on Zimbabwean literature and culture. Within this field, I have, for instance, published articles and book chapters on Titi Tangaremba's trilogy, and have also taken on major research collaboration already before this anthology. So prior to this edited anthology, I have co-edited with Jocelyn Alexander and Astrid Rasch a special journal issue on repression and resistance in Zimbabwean literature in Journal of Southern African Studies, and that was also in 2021. And this collection of articles examined the consequences of repression on the Zimbabwean literary scene, and also the used literature as a lens to explore strategies to challenge repression. And thirdly, my most recent research focuses on African writers and representations of the contemporary European refugee crisis. And for instance, one of my recent articles discusses Ellen Abila's Travelers and the novel's representation of Europeans and migrants acting together by drawing from Jacques Francier's theorization of dissensus as a tool to challenge existing political hierarchies by creating new solidarities against present orders. And my other recent article focuses on the post-colonial picaresque style in Gauze's Standing Heavy. Gauze's Ivorian immigrant characters in Paris are depicted as robust survivors criticizing the French system through their anti-idealist viewpoints. So that's sort of the direction towards which I've been going since finished the anthology. And then a couple of words about my teaching. I teach everything, introduction to literature, etc. But let's focus on the teaching that focuses on African literature. So I have taught several master's level courses on colonial and post-colonial literatures, with a strong emphasis on Anglophone Nigerian writing. I always include Chinua Achebe, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, and Chris Abani's work, for instance, in the readings when I teach post-colonial African writing. And I've also taught MA level courses on eco-criticism and post-colonial literature. And there again, I have a heavy emphasis on African writing. So that course introduces students to first the Western notion of eco-criticism, challenges its narrow approach to ecological problems, particularly as it tends to overlook the global South. And I include Nigerian, South African, Ugandan fiction course curriculum. And I've also taught courses on border-crossing narratives, where we study aesthetic representations of the experience of migration by minority populations in a global perspective. And for this course, we read fiction written by Somali, South African, Nigerian authors. Okay, well, thank you.
Nice. Thank you very much for that. Let's get to Professor Astrid.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Anantida, for the invitation. We're very happy to be here today. My name is Astrid Rasch. I'm a professor of cultural and social studies in English at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology. My research focuses on post-imperial memory politics. So that is how the British Empire is remembered and contested in various places around the former British Empire. I have a particular interest in Zimbabwe and in African studies more broadly, but I've also been working on the Caribbean and Britain and Australia. I edited a book with Stuart Ward on the Embers of Empire in Brexit Britain. And I edited that collection that Minna just referred to, called Writing, Repression in Zimbabwe. And then just last month, I published a monograph entitled Intimate Afterlives of Empire, which is on memory and decolonization in autobiography. So a lot of my past work has been on the autobiographical genre and how memories of colonialism are negotiated, and the interface between individual and collective memory is negotiated in this genre. And that book includes 2 chapters on Zimbabwean and ex-Rhodesian autobiography. I have a whole range of articles on white nostalgia in memoir writing and on political memoirs. And there is also a chapter in this book on political memoirs. I'm working towards a new big research project on reparations and on memory politics around empire more broadly. So all sorts of different, moving away from the autobiographical genre into other areas. So statues, reparations, tourism, museums, many different genres of post-colonial memory politics. And in terms of my teaching, I've been teaching, well, like Minna, all sorts of things, including stuff on contemporary Britain. But I teach a course on memory politics after empire, which is spans a lot of the former British Empire and looks at that through the contemporary contestations over the imperial past. And then I teach a course on post-colonial Africa, where next week we're going to do a segment on Kukurundi memory. So that'll bring me back to this book. And then I do a segment on decolonizing knowledge production, which is something that I've also been investigating and dedicated to. Mm-hmm. Thanks for me.
That's wonderful. That's really great.